order the meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission, September 17, 2008. And would you join the commission in pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that all commission members are present, with the exception of the chair, who is on a tour for the next 3 months. And so the next item of business will be the approval of the minutes of the August 20th, 2008 Planning and Zoning Commission. Did you have an opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any corrections or additions? Being none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting in August.
Second.
Okay, and Ms. Lauritano has made the motion and seconded by Bob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Next item is public comments. If you wish to speak on any item that is on the agenda or wish to speak to the commission, now is the time to do so. And if you would fill out a card similar to this to speak on any topic. I see none that are related to public comments. At this time, we'll move on then to disclosure of ex parte communications. Seeing none?
Well, just a slight one. I was visiting Southwest Specialty Foods Company today, and they asked me to sign a petition, which I declined.
All right.
That's it.
Okay. That's fine. Being no other ex parte communications, we'll move to the consent agenda. And this one we don't need to really have a motion on, but there is a consent agenda item on Estrella Regional 3 preliminary planned area development public hearing. And the staff is recommending, in this case, that this be continued indefinitely and that no commission action is warranted at this time. So then we will move to...
Oh, we do need a motion.
Pardon me?
We do need a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Ms. Lortano.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next item of business, new business, case 083000006, Carl's Jr. drive-through restaurant use permit. And I'll open the public hearing and we'll have the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, Commission members. Tonight we do have a use permit for convenience use. Specifically, that convenience use is a drive-through restaurant. The use is located within the Canyon Trails Town Center, which is 90 acres located at the northeast corner of Cotton Lane and Yuma Road. The Carl's Jr. is located on this pad right here. And generally, this pad will be surrounded by future commercial uses. The center itself is surrounded by a mix of existing and proposed single-family residential development. We have a school, and then down here to the south, and then to the west, we have a mix of existing and proposed commercial uses there. This center, the entire center is zoned PAD, equivalent, though, to our C2 zoning, thus the requirement for the use permit. This is just a look at the site plan for the overall center. Here's the Carl's Jr. restaurant proposed here. This is Super Target right here. Rest of the inline shops. Proposed site plan for the Carl's Jr. restaurant. North is to the top here. Parking fields surround the restaurant. The entrances are here and here. The drive-through wraps around to the west here where the drive-through window is located. Menu boards located right there. And again, surrounded by future commercial uses within the Canyon Trails Town Center. This is the proposed elevations for the restaurant. Materials colors are consistent with those approved for the center. Staff does find that this use permit is compatible with the existing and planned uses within the area and will not be a detriment to the surrounding area. Most of the uses are commercial, and the nearest residential development will be here, which is roughly 1,000 feet to the east, so they should not be impacted by any noise from any of the drive-through or the menu boards or such. With that, we are recommending approval of the use permit subject to the 4 stipulations in the staff report. With that, Mr. Vice Chair, staff is concluded with our presentation. The applicant and staff are available for questions.
Are there questions from commission members to the staff? Yes.
Steve, this is on pad C. Is that where the Carl's Jr. is?
Yes, sir, right there.
And
Thank you.
what is directly to the west of it on pad F?
It's another pad, an unknown use at this time.
'Cause that's where the drive-in is, and I just want to be sure that the drive-in doesn't interfere with whatever might go in.
Mr. Vice Chair, Commission, in looking at this, if I understand the question, I think cars will enter here and come out and exit to the east. So it's kind of internalized to the pad. Here we have landscape planters all the way around.
And if there's any issue with development in pad F, there's space where it could be buffered. Is that a road
Yeah.
between the two? Is that a road between the two?
Yes, right here.
Oh, okay. I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. No further questions? Let's hear from the applicant then, Steve, at this point.
At this point, I have no other further things to say, really. I mean, it's pretty
Would you
self-explanatory.
state your name
Sorry,
and address, please?
Jeff Dietz with Dietz Design, 6650 North 47th Avenue, Glendale.
Okay.
Any questions?
Of the applicant? Guess you're on the roll here, huh?
So,
Okay. Is there commission discussion? And I would entertain the motion regarding Carl's Jr. drive-through use permit.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we approve case number 08 300-00006, the use permit to allow convenience use for Carl's Jr. Restaurant.
I second.
Okay, Mr. Rouse moves the motion, and Ms. Miller seconded the motion. Is there any discussion by the commission? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed, same sign, 6-0. Thank you. Okay, I guess I'll close the public hearing. I'm sorry I didn't do that. But next item is the wireless communication facility special use permit, public hearing, and Mr. Tabasola.
Thank you, Vice Chairman DeBroker and members of the commission. What you have before you, as you said, is a special use request for a wireless communication facility in the form of a monopalm, similar to many that have come before you in the past. And I'll begin by orienting you with the site. And what you're looking at here is the intersection of Yuma and Cotton Lane. The lease area is about 1,000 or so feet south of Yuma Road, just west of Cotton Lane. And as you can see here, you can see some of the proposed developments surrounding the area. Cotton Flower Ranch Marketplace, it's about a 20-acre property. We're currently reviewing a site plan for it. And of course, most of the other developments, commercial development for Canyon Trails, as well as some of the residential components nearby it. The lease area is located within a 4-acre area that currently houses the Moose Lodge fraternal organization. The building is located here, just off of Cotton Lane. The other thing I should note is, of course, the Cotton Lane is the future alignment of the Loop 303 freeway, and so you can see there's a lot of right-of-way set aside, and it's about 225 feet on either side of the Cotton Lane center line. And this lease area is just a little bit beyond that. I believe it's about 15 or 20 feet beyond the future right-of-way line for the Loop 303. To the west, further, is the Cotton Flower Ranch residential subdivision. The monopole would be located about 135 feet to the east of that property line, which is more than double the height of the proposed monopole, which is 65 feet. Now I will refer to sheet Z1 of the attached site plans, the first set of attachments after the staff report. I believe they're stapled together. And this kind of calls out some of the dimensions and setback distances from some of the property lines. But I just wanted to show you here the lease area, the precise location of the lease area, which is about 600 square feet. And of course, here's the Moose Lodge building, which will be taken when the Loop 303 goes in, of course. 65-foot monopalm, as I mentioned, and I'll show you some elevations later, and it will be enclosed by an 8-foot CMU block wall, which will surround the associated equipment. The applicant will be adding a 20-foot driveway, which will be dust-proofed according to the PM10 regulations. And as with most monopoles of this nature, it'll only require a limited number of maintenance throughout the year, maybe once per month. So with that, I'll go ahead and show you some elevations from a few different angles. This is looking north towards the site. And looking north, and obviously this is just south of the Moose Lodge building. And although it may not appear very well on the overhead for some of the audience members, but the proposed 65-foot monopalm is located quite a ways beyond the Moose Lodge building. And this is looking west towards the Cotton Flower Ranch residential area, looking west towards Cotton Lane. And so with that, staff doesn't feel that this will be a detriment to the neighborhood adjacent to this parent site, the Moose Lodge. We did schedule a citizen review meeting. We sent out notification letters well in advance. We haven't gotten any inquiries, nor have we had any attendees at the citizen review meeting. So we don't feel it will be a detriment, and so we're recommending approval contingent on the 7 stipulations before you. With that, I'll conclude my comments.
Thank you. Are there questions of staff? Yes.
I just have a quick one. I know sometimes when we get the monopalms, because they look, I don't want to say silly, but they look kind of alone out there by themselves. Are there any plans at this point for other, because there's no co-locating on this one, I understand, for other monopalms from other people to make a little grove? I know you sometimes try to group them.
Yes, and Commissioner Lortano, the only such example that I'm aware of is, and that I have in fact worked with the applicant with, are the couple that are out in the Tuscany Falls RV storage area. I can tell you the inquiries that I've been getting, I haven't seen any preliminary proposals to locate within a nearby monopalm that's existing out there right now. But we do encourage that, and we will encourage cell phone providers to locate as such. So.
Okay. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation? I do have a card, incidentally, on this one. Someone has signed in to speak, and we'll hear from them. But the applicant?
I believe she doesn't have any.
Would you like me to state name and address?
Yes. Please come up.
Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the Commission, my name is Jeannie Bullard, and my address is 8766 East Via de Encanto, Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm here representing AT&T Wireless.
Okay.
Any questions?
I guess you're on a roll.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a card from Marianne Olschner. Is that correct?
That's right.
Would you state your full name and your address, please?
Yes. My name is Marianne Olschner. I am the owner of 1507 South 171st Avenue in Goodyear, and I'm very new to this whole process, so please forgive me if I sort of fumble my way through. I'm here because I felt rather passionately, and have never been before a hearing like this before, as a resident, as a neighbor of this proposed monopole, and let me see if I can figure out how to zoom. Ooh, yeah. All right. So as you see, the proposed monopole site is here, and I live here. So it's pretty literally in my backyard, and I do have some concerns about this monopole in our neighborhood. First, I would say just the aesthetic appeal. I'd like to point out that all of the homes along this back wall here that are adjacent to that Moose Lodge property, they're all single-level homes, so they have a height of maybe 18 to 20 feet. The neighborhood is relatively new, so most of the trees are young, and I think you could see in the elevations presented that there's not a lot of other palm trees or any tall trees or anything else to sort of distract from this 65-foot pole that's just going to appear in the middle of nowhere. I'd also like to say that I know there's no conclusive evidence about the health impacts of being so close to a cellular pole, but I also know that lots of people perceive these health impacts, which makes it very difficult to show a home or sell a home, which is something that, as my husband and I are starting our family, is something that we hope to do in the near future. And so I also would like to point out, I have no idea how this works for AT&T, but I know, for instance, at 99th Avenue in Lower Buckeye, there is one such monopole palm tree in the Target strip mall center, and that one is pretty unnoticeable. There's a lot of other tall trees, palm trees even in that area, and the buildings themselves are taller, and it's more of a, commercial use. And I know that on the northeast corner of Cotton Lane and Yuma is where they're building that new proposed Super Target strip mall area. So I'm not sure, being, just a quarter mile away, if that's something that AT&T could consider instead of building a monopole basically in our backyards, which to me has a possible effect on my home value as well as my ability to resale that home. And considering that we're in an already crippled housing market, that's definitely something that I feel very concerned about. So thank you for your attention, and that's all I had to say.
Before you go,
Yes.
we'll see if there are any questions from commission members. Then? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Questions from,
I have a question.
Yes.
Question of staff. Were the residents considered prior to the appointment of this particular location? The idea of how close residents live to the monopole, and I think she very well described the situation from what I'm hearing, that it's new. It's a new development, which means you have immature landscaping. So that's my question.
Vice Chairman DeBroke or Commissioner Miller. Some of the considerations that staff made, particularly as it relates to safety of nearby residents, first and foremost is to make sure that there's adequate distance between the base of the monopalm and the nearest residential property line, because there is that risk of a fall zone. So in this case, there's a 2-to-1 ratio. Other than following the public notice procedures and scheduling the citizen review meeting, and sending a letter to the HOA as well, we haven't gone far beyond that.
And there was
But-
no response from the HOA?
There was no response, no. I will note that the only address that the city did have was the address to the property manager for that Cotton Flower Ranch development. That was the only address that we had with us, and we did send a notice to that address.
You said that the Cotton Flower Marketplace, you're currently looking, I guess, at a PAD. It's over right next to the Moose Lodge.
It's directly north of it, correct?
That's going to be commercial? Do you, like stores or retail, or do we know at all what's that?
It is going to be a more of a community commercial as far as its scale goes. It's about a 20-acre property. We are currently reviewing the site plan, although I don't believe we know of any. It has been approved apparently. I don't know if we know of any end users yet.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Miller, the property is zoned commercial. The staff has administratively approved the site plan for the shopping center in the site. The primary tenant in that center is LA Fitness, as shown in their site plan. And then there's pads, one of which you'll see in a month for a CVS pharmacy. And there's other shops buildings.
I guess my question is, because will it then, because it's hard for me to visualize, because she was saying the other has the commercial, will it maybe blend in with that commercial? I mean, what's your opinion on that? I mean, I don't know what the landscape and everything is for that, or how far the monopalm's going to be. That might help diffuse it, so it doesn't look like it's standing out there all by itself.
We do encourage that, to the extent possible, that such facilities be located in a commercial area. But we, quite honestly, staff hasn't spoken to the applicant about the possibility of locating near.
Oh, I don't mean moving
right.
the AT&T. I was just concerned if it's a possibility with the closeness. I can't tell from this actually how close the monopalm is going to be from the other commercial, because it might. It might blend in once it's actually the LA Fitness and everything is up and running. Maybe the monopalm will hopefully blend in with that landscaping a little bit more.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's about.
It's hard for me to tell. It looks like
It's 65 feet, which is equal to the length of the height of the monopalm.
okay from the other. That's all I have. I just want to know what was going
Which is a
there.
considerable distance. I'm not sure if, we could effectively work with the landscaping up north to make it blend in.
A couple palm trees on that side, kind of make it look a little better. Because I understand her concern, and that's my concern, is when you see them out there, there's just like, there's this barren area, and then all of a sudden this giant, that's why I asked you about grouping them, if there's going to be something else there, because it does look kind of odd, and that's why I was wondering, maybe they could work with the other pad when they set it with the landscape, and maybe make some sort of transition for the neighborhood, so it looks like kind of, it's just not sitting out there by itself.
Well, I'm sure the applicant might want to speak to it, but, if you're so inclined, we can certainly consider a stipulation that, perhaps other palm trees be planted next to it. Of course, that would have to be okayed by the landowner, but.
Oh, I don't mean them. I think I mean with the cotton flower marketplace when they
Right,
come in.
right.
Hopefully it'll kind of.
Well, I think somebody, to me, it doesn't matter who it is. And I'm sure to the residents, they don't care who it is. They just want it to look aesthetically better than what it's going to look, and I can quite understand her. So whomever you need to talk to.
Fair enough.
Well,
Chairman, if I might interject, I'm not sure if I follow. The applicant's request is for this one facility on this site.
Correct.
That is the proposal. Am I hearing in the commission that you're suggesting that we locate it elsewhere?
I'm not saying that.
No, that was not, my concern is listening to the resident, and I think she has a valid concern in terms of it being in her backyard. So, if there were palm trees, I got the feeling that if there were other landscaping there, then it would look better. Am I correct? Am I correct?
It's not just
I
sticky
think
nuts.
and also I should point out, I was unaware that what the commercial development for that Cotton Flower Marketplace was. I didn't know what, if anything, was going to be built there. So that may start to even things out, but right now, as it's proposed, it's kind of just a sore thumb sticking up in a barren lot.
Mr. Williams.
may I suggest two things? One, maybe you all, and thank you very much. You did a very good job, and we love to see people come in and express themselves and like you did. But I might suggest two things. One, you might explain to them probably after the meeting or at some time convenient to them the Wireless Communications Act requirement that limit what we can do, how we can regulate communications facilities, and two, make sure that she's advised of the commission meetings on the Cotton Flower Marketplace so she can come in and see what the landscaping will be when they come in and present their site plan.
If I may, Vice Chairman DeProkert, Commissioner Williams, as Bob Coons just said, the site plan has been approved. If it were ever to come before the commission, I believe it would be for a use permit case for such as a drive-through. But we can certainly involve the speaker in the review of the civil plans, which include landscape plans as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Coons.
I can never tell if this is on or not. I guess I'm not following. If the commission is concerned about the single monopalm being there by itself, I guess that's one thing. I think you do need to recognize that that would be the condition today. In the future, there's other development that'll be north of it, as well as a freeway that's going to be along Cotton Lane. But if the commission is still concerned with regards to the single monopalm, and that's all that's before you today, honestly, the only thing that's going to make that different is if you were to stipulate and require other real palm trees to be built on the site as a condition of this use permit. And at that, I think we need the applicant's response to whether or not they would agree to that. You can still stipulate that even if they disagree, but if you want to mitigate that single look, the only way I can see them doing that is not just through landscaping, because some trees along the base are not going to change that. It would only take other additional real palm trees or monopalm cell phone towers to be placed there to mitigate that.
I totally understand the concerns. And before I was in the business, I had the same concerns as to safety, resale, et cetera. And also, just to let you know, and I'll address also the palm trees, but when the antennas are hidden there, they are aimed towards the horizon, which means if you're that close, they'll be over your house and not at your house. So that's one thing to know. There is safety. We do have a lot of reports that show that it is not any more dangerous than, say, your microwave. But I understand that. The reason that we selected the spot that we did, we came out and drove all of it. We did know that there was to be the commercial development there on the corner, and that most of that land there at the Moose Lodge was to be taken for the freeway, the 303. We felt that, and it is very specific as to where our engineers need to locate. Sometimes we get, people call them search rings, sometimes they're search dots, and basically we want something at the corner of Cotton and Yuma. So we came out and tried to find where we felt it would impact the least in development, particularly when we had the commercial coming up right there north of it. We try to always locate if there is another existing one there if we can, and some of them seem, oh, they're so close, why can't you? But they don't always work within the network. Again, the carriers are, by law, are required to provide a certain amount of coverage to new and expanding residential areas. And if we don't, then we're fined sometimes millions of dollars. That's something that people aren't aware of. So when we are getting requests from new areas, such as this one that's growing, we're pretty much mandated to come in and to provide coverage. So I know that we try to do a win-win situation usually. On occasion, we have planted another mono palm if required, but I think what you will find, and having been in the business as a site acquisition person for about 10 years now, if we go in, if you build it, they will come. And I really do believe if anyone else needs something in this area, they will usually go where it's been approved before, as you know. And if it's a monopalm, it's more than likely that will be the site that they will choose. Since it's already there, and what else? I don't know what else that particular parcel will be used for once the Moose Lodge. I don't know if they're going to build a new one or not, but there will be room for more. So we did try to take everything into account, particularly the nearby neighbors, and a great many of them had complained of drop calls in the area. So, as I say, you can't always please everyone, but we try. So, any other questions for? No.
I just have a comment. Yeah, I would agree with the drop calls. I had AT&T switched over for about a week, and I couldn't get service
Exactly.
in that area at all. So I do understand that, and I do appreciate
Right.
the fact that you are trying to work.
Yeah, and we do know that, it used to be much more, they're much more prevalent now and all over. I have not personally seen it devaluate the homes in the area, because the people now need that more than anything. And I think with your development back there, and if others come in, that it will mitigate that appearance somewhat, and particularly as the trees grow in the area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I would just say to the lady, I live in Pebble Creek, and on the edge of Pebble Creek, we have a little complex where, and granted, it is not as close to my home as this proposed pole is to your home, but I drive by it every day coming in and out of the complex. And it started with one, and about a year ago they added the second one, and now the third one is going to be under construction very soon. And you just don't notice it. I mean, and drive up by there where the two are clustered, and there's going to be a third one very close to it off of Indian School, and it's not obtrusive at all.
mean, it does sound like from what I've heard now is that in the future, certainly, I don't think that it will be obtrusive at all, and it probably is a good thing. I'm actually an AT&T user myself, and I get much better service with them than Verizon. So, but which I'm sure has to do with the placement of towers and the service that they try to provide. It's my concern though still is a little for the immediate future. And the fact that it is still, I think it will be somewhat noticeable, especially from my viewpoint and possibly my neighbors who also live along that row. Right now, we're used to having no neighbors behind. You know, we just see sky over our back walls. And it's a little jarring, I think, to go from that to a 65-foot palm tree in my backyard. So that's still my only concern right now, is just for the immediate aesthetic appeal, really, and what that may do to, how I feel sitting in my backyard and how potential home buyers may feel when I show them my house. But I do feel, I mean, with the development that's coming, I do feel that in time it won't be an issue. It'll be a non-issue. But if something could be arranged with the Moose Lodge, perhaps to plant another date palm or something nearby, it might be a little less jarring. So, all right.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments that wish to be made regarding this item? I will close the public hearing. I didn't open it. I will now close the non-open public hearing, I noticed, and commission discussion. Then commission action. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of case 08-350-00004, the special use to allow a wireless communication facility at the Moose Lodge.
I have a motion from Commissioner Laux. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Second. And is there any further discussion by the commission? Then I'll call for order on this one. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. Motion carried, 6-0. Thank you. Okay. Next item of business is the comprehensive sign package amendment for Southwest Specialty Foods Incorporated. And the staff presentation, I'll open the public hearing. I will open it this time. And Mr. Schmitz.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, this particular case is a request for an amendment to a comprehensive sign package for Southwest Specialty Foods, which is located at 700 North Willard Avenue. The property is located in a C2I1 and AU zoning districts. You may recall that in 2006, a comprehensive sign package was approved for the property to allow the installation of a freestanding sign at the entrance to the facility. When the application was initially made, the sign was represented by the Exhibit 1, which is in your support material and displayed up here now. As it went through the review process, the sign was modified a little bit to add some additional embellishment to the pole. And the final sign that was approved had appeared like as is shown in Exhibit 3. The sign package was approved with a stipulation that the sign not exceed 32 feet in height and that it also not exceed 260 square feet in area. And that calculation essentially was based on one of the prior drawings, where the three-dimensional figure of the mule was estimated to be 8 by 10. The slogan sign was 3 by 40 feet, which was 120 square feet, and then the gift shop sign was 3 by 21, which was 63 square feet. And so with the 80 square feet in the mule, it all added up to 263. When the sign was permitted, this exhibit was included with the application, along with a dimension drawing that indicated that the square footage of the sign would be 65 square feet for the three-dimensional mule. The business name would be 96 square feet, and then the slogan would be 122 square feet. It was noted that that would add up to 249 square feet on the application package, but it was actually worked out to be more like 283 square feet. But in any event, the sign that was proposed appeared to be consistent with the sign that was approved as part of the comprehensive sign package. After initial construction of the sign was nearly complete, 2 additional signs were added to the support poles on the sign structure, 1 on each pole. Each of these signs were in the shape of a hot sauce bottle that is depicted in Exhibit 5. And they were placed on the support poles of the sign in a manner similar to what's shown in Exhibit 6. With the addition of the 2 signs that were placed on the poles, each with 44 square feet, that brought the total up to approximately 351 square feet. And since it exceeded what was initially approved for the comprehensive sign package, the applicant was notified and advised that those signs needed to be removed or an administrative remedy pursued, such as filing for an amendment to the comprehensive sign package. So that's what the applicant has done. The application that you have before you essentially is to allow the sign to remain as constructed. The staff has recommended that the application not be approved. The staff did not support the initial application because the sign was in excess of what was normally allowed for individual businesses in the community, and we felt that the sign was not consistent with the type of signage that's authorized by the sign ordinance. We also noted that the additional signs were added without the benefit of the building permit, and believe that to allow those signs to remain would be inconsistent with some of the previous actions that have been taken by the city, in particular the Landmark Interiors case, where a sign that was erected without a permit was required to be removed even after a request for an amendment to the sign package was proposed. I'd like to note for the record that the applicant also has submitted some additional information that was distributed to you before the meeting. There are a number of several letters of support, a number of petitions signed in favor of the request, and then there was also information pertaining to how the sign area should be calculated. The revised calculation that the applicant submitted, and apologize, I'll try to get this a little bit bigger. No, it's too big. There we go. As I noted, the square footage that was on the originally approved comprehensive sign package was 263. The square footage that was shown on the sign permit was 283. And then the applicant's calculation of the square footage now, they indicate is 296 square feet. I would add that the way sign area is calculated can get more involved than just the outline of the letters, but typically when sign letters are attached to a background, the entire background is also included in the sign area calculation. So However, the difference between the 296 and the 351, I suppose, is arguable. Lastly, I wanted to point out that the staff acknowledges that it's the commission's prerogative to make a recommendation other than what's recommended by staff, and so in the event the commission sees fit to recommend approval of the amendment, we have provided you with some suggested stipulations that should be added to a recommendation for approval if one is made. So with that concludes my presentation. I would stand for questions if you have any.
Okay. Questions of staff? Mr. Weather?
Yes, I do. And Joe, in our package, it indicated that the sign approved by the city council said Southwest Specialty Foods, and now it says something about have some kind of a day. Is that, do I have that right? Did everybody think the sign was going to say Southwest Specialty Foods?
Chairman DeBroker and Commissioner Williams, that was, the drawing that was presented is what was presented. However, there was no stipulation as to the sign content, and generally speaking, as long as the content on the sign is related to the business that's located on the premise, then we don't extend our control to cover that. There are certain First Amendment free speech rights that people have. We do distinguish whether it would be on-premise or off-premise, so in that regard, we do look at sign content for that. But when the permit came in, we felt that the slogan was a slogan associated with the business and was sufficiently related that we should allow it, as long as it was within the square footage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Ms. Loretano.
In the area, the actual store itself sits back, and in front of it is, I guess, I don't know if it's a donkey or a burro, or there's an animal, the donkey, I guess. There are a couple of them. Is that all land owned by the Southwest Specialty Food as well?
Commissioner Lartani, yes, it is.
So that's their land.
That,
and then,
that land and the land to the north where the chilies are grown.
so that's all their land?
Yes.
And then in front where Bullard comes, because I know they're doing construction on Bullard, how close is Bullard going to come to that sign area?
I believe the right-of-way will come up all the way up to where the fence is located.
So then it'll be the entrance to their property, and that'll all be their property from the fence where the donkey back to their store. That's all their stuff.
That's correct. The sign is located on their property. It's inside their fence.
I just wasn't sure if that fenced-in area was going to be later developed into something else, or if that was remaining part of the Southwest Specialty Foods. But if it's their property, that's...
It's their property, and they could develop it into something else that's in conformance with the zoning district.
Okay.
Commissioner Laux.
Joe, sort of to follow up on that, as soon as the improvements are done, how will, once we put the street lights and how will that impact the sign? Because isn't basically the Bullard sign and the stoplights that'll be there? Will that not have an impact on the sign?
Chairman DeBroker, Commissioner Laux, the city does have plans as part of in connection with the Cancer Treatment Center of America project and related development that will occur on the adjoining property around the Cancer Treatment Center, that the intersection of Roosevelt and Bullard will be signalized, and so there would be a signal, traffic signal constructed on that, at that location. As to the effect on the sign, I don't know off the top of my head how much, if any, of the sign would be obscured by the traffic signal.
Okay.
I have a question. I'm not sure if you answered whether or not the existing sign is in conformance with the sign ordinance now.
Chairman DeBroker, Commissioner Schlosser, the sign that was permitted basically looked like the sign in terms of size and area that was approved as part of the comprehensive sign package, and so there's some small discrepancy between whether it's 283 square feet or 263 square feet. I will be the first to admit I did not climb up on the sign and measure it. But I think we're reasonably comfortable with the sign, that the sign as constructed without the addition of the hot sauce bottles would have been in conformance with the comprehensive sign package. It's only the addition of those signs on the poles that put it out of compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Smith, thank you. Let's hear now from the applicant, Mr. Jacobs or Mrs. Jacobs. Would you state your full name and address for the record, please?
My name is Linda Jacobs, and the address for the discussion of today is 700 North Bullard Avenue in Goodyear. Just a couple of things. First of all, I wrote a letter once I received the letter from Mr. Schmitz and indicating that the bottles were an afterthought, not an intentional. The sign was being erected and it was finished, almost finished, and the poles were coming down to support the archway sign, and we were standing back there, and I was with the sign developer, the sign builder, Flasco Signs, and I just thought, to complete this sign, to really explain what the Have an Ass Kicking Day gift shop is all about, I felt that we should explain it. And so when the bottles were put, I said we should just put bottles of hot sauce on there. That tells everybody when they're driving down Bullard Avenue, hey, this is Ass Kicking Hot Sauce represents what this is all about. And so that's why, as I explained in the letter, that it was not a in any form disrespect or neglect or anything. It was just more the idea, and I just never took the thought past I should contact the city. I felt it was within the parameters of the sign itself. So I apologize to the commission for not following the rules, first of all. Secondly, thank you for shopping in our gift shop. We do get a lot of requests from the City of Goodyear schools. I saw letters that came in. They come to us for donations, for support, and we think we're a good asset to your city. And we do what we can to help the city in any way we can in our business. And, the City of Goodyear came to us when they went down to, I believe it was Florida, for the All-American City. We sent all kinds of peanuts and snacks and sauces, and they wanted something to represent your city. And so we, again, this is our stance on the way that we finished putting up our sign. We've had great support from the community, and the letters, this took me 4 days. We put a thing out into our gift shop, hey, if you like it, if you support it, please sign it. I don't know what the lady said to you today in our gift shop, but it was just sitting on the counter, and I said, hey, talk to the customers that are coming in. If they like it, if they support it, have them sign it. I don't believe there's any pressure put on the people coming in. And the general community, I contacted the church next door. I contacted some of the schools that we support, and just some of the neighbors that came in that live in, I think, a couple from Pebble Creek, one from up by Millennium High School that wrote letters to support. So that's where it came about. That's how we, we're the stance of the sign. I think it looks great. Personally, I think it really explains people that drive by now. Of course, everything that we sell, the city, gets tax revenue from. So the more people that come into the shop and support what we do, obviously grows the city of Goodyear.
Thank you.
Any questions from
Yeah,
me?
I have a question. I think you do have a wonderful shop.
Thank you.
And I do enjoy it. And I love the bottles there. However, here's my question. Why couldn't they have built those bottles to conform to the specifications that you were approved for?
Well, I know that the original was to wrap the I-beams or the poles to support the archway. And so when they were initially going to look like big logs, big poles. And so, again, when those bottles were put up, I didn't think that there was going to be, I guess the Ass Kicking Hot Sauce bottle itself, I didn't feel was going over and above what was already given to us.
Oh, no, that's not my question, because I understand that part, and I can sympathize with that part, I really can, and I think it looks great. However, my question is, why are the bottles out of conformity? Why couldn't they have been it could have been done so that you were within the parameters of your application.
So if those bottles were smaller?
Exactly. I
They were-
grant you, that there's two items here. One, you have bottles that were not approved, and two, they are too big. So I understand the number one because they really do look nice. I agree with you. But number two, I have a big problem with is that they do not comply. And I don't understand why they don't comply.
Well, again, it was not when, I guess I didn't go back to the initial approved sign package with the square footage when we decided to put those up with the sign company. Again, it was negligence on my part by not going to the next level and saying, okay, we have this number of square feet now. If we put those bottles up, will that throw us over? And again, it was an idea, and I thought it would look great, and I just never took it to the next level. And that's, as Mr. Schmidt said, the building permit and to put those up. Again, I thought the sign was already permitted, and we could complete it to the best of our, I guess the best way we thought it would look.
Thank you.
Ms. Laurentano.
First of all, is that a donkey or a mule? What is
We have both. We have both donkeys and mules on the property, and that was, I think, one of the letters indicated that she likes to bring her kids down there, and they feed carrots to the animals, and it becomes more of a family atmosphere and, something else for them to do. We have people that come down on Saturdays just with their kids to be around the animals, so.
And is have you read the stipulations that the city's requesting, and are you okay with those? Have they gone through those with you?
No.
Okay. Because I guess that'd be my question, if you'd be okay if we approved it with the stipulations that the city has. Because I drove by it this morning, but it's hard for me to, just right now without looking at a whole picture in color, to know if it currently matches the back color or of the sign and some of the
bottles are
stipulations.
excuse me. The bottles are a rust color, which does match the building and the poles that are back actually against the building. The posts or the concrete pillars that support those bottles do match the pillars that go across the front of the building. And I'm sorry I didn't bring a picture of the actual complex, but the pillars and the color of the bottles do match.
And do you have any problem? They said something about not parking any vehicles there to advertise.
No, that's already been.
So that's not even happening. So that's not even an
no.
issue.
Mm-mm.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the applicant? Yes.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment. One thing, I mean, it's very, very commendable that you do support the school so much and that you have your animals there for the kids to come play with. That's great. And I guess maybe I'm something of an old prude or something, because it bothers me that then you use that to go to the people who are teaching our kids to have ethics and be good citizens, and make them, perhaps coerce or at least encourage them to advocate kind of an in-your-face attitude, which to me, your sign has. I'm sorry. That's, my personal opinion. And if it was less in your face, if it said Southwest Specialty Foods or Southwest Specialty Sauces, which I think would describe your business, I would have less of a problem with it.
Okay. I mean, I feel, and we've always felt, that the ass kicking was done in a tasteful manner and is never indicated. An ass is an ass. I mean, it's an animal. It's in the Bible. It's it's utilized many times. It's said on, the news, people use it. The channel, when you watch television at 7 o'clock, I mean, it's not, we have never done it or felt like it was an offensive term. And it's, we feel and support that the ass-kicking part with the donkey on it is part of who we are and what we do. And I appreciate, the compliment on what we do to help the students in the city and, the schools that are in our surrounding area. But we have always believed in and felt that we were not, our intention has never been to offend. I mean, the church school behind us, is supporting what we do, and, I felt that if, that's who we are. So.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on, are there any additional public comments that wish to be made regarding this item? Hearing none, I will then close the public hearing. And commission discussion? Yes.
I just have kind of a comment. I'm actually okay with your sign. I think if it was sitting in front of a furniture store or a Lowe's or a hamburger stand or something along those lines, it's one thing. But you have a large plot that borders it where your store is in the back, and you have farm animals there. I mean, the furniture store isn't going to have farm animals. And I think Goodyear honestly should be, obviously conformity is good, but I don't think we want to be Stepford. We want some personality. And I think you think about early 70s going down Scottsdale Road, there was a steakhouse there until they moved it to build condos called Rawhide, and their sign was a giant stagecoach, and people knew that was Rawhide, and that was personality for Scottsdale. And that's why they used to be called the most western city. So I'm actually okay with it. If you're okay with the stipulations, I'm actually okay with the sign.
All right, thank you.
I totally agree with Commissioner Loretano. I think it's a great sign. And I think it distinguishes them, and that's what they're in the business, to make money and to distinguish them, and they have civic responsibility. And if they agree with these stipulations, I'm fine with it.
Okay, thank you.
I just think, again, I just think if it said Southwest Specialty Foods or Southwest Specialty Sauces, I would not have a problem with it. But I think it's in your face, and I don't think it's, in a few years, that's going to be very, very upscale area with the hospital and the medical office buildings that'll be in around it, and the mall and all the restaurants, P.F. Chang's and that up the street. And I just don't think it's in keeping with the character of what that area will be in a few years.
So what are you saying? That in a few... I think that it's unique, and I don't think that we should, just because they may not look like Scottsdale, which I wouldn't want to be Scottsdale. I'd like the money of Scottsdale, but I wouldn't want to be the Scottsdale. And I think that in Goodyear that we should be able to embrace differences as long as it's done in good taste. And this is their brand. That's the name of their bottles of pepper, of sauce. This is their brand. So this is their branding. It's no different than Red Lobster.
And if I may, my understanding is that if we vote against this, it doesn't change the top slogan at all. It's just really the bottles, right? I mean, if it were to be voted against, the slogan "Have an ass-kicking day" remains, right? I mean, that stays.
I don't think Bob.
Does anybody?
Yeah, Commissioner Loretano, that's correct. It's the only thing that's at issue tonight is the addition of the hot sauce bottles to the poles. And I would just take the opportunity to point out one thing. When the staff report was prepared, we were trying to make heads or tails out of the exact measurements of the sign. So the stipulation number 7 says 338 square feet. If the commission intends to use these stipulations at all, I would recommend that 338 be changed to 296.2, which is consistent with the applicant's measurement of the sign now. So there's no confusion that this is the maximum that's permitted.
Okay. No further commission discussion? Then I think we're at a point where we have a motion. The chair would entertain a motion.
Can I?
Okay, Ms. Loretano.
I move that we approve zero. If I approve it, if we want them to keep it, right? Am I doing this right?
With the stipulations.
With the stipulations.
Is that
Yep.
correct?
Okay. That we approve 087000003 with the stipulations and the amendment to the number at 296.2.
I second.
Okay. Ms. Commissioner Loretano made the motion, Commissioner Miller seconded the motion. We're at the point where we'll vote. All in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No?
Chair also votes no. I'd entertain then a counter motion.
We're going down.
Mr. Vice Chairman, in case number 08-630-00008, I move that we go along with staff and recommend denial of an amendment to the existing comprehensive sign package for the property located at 700 North Bullard Avenue.
Right? Is there a second? Commissioner Schlosser seconded the motion. All in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed?
No. No.
Same sign. Okay. Motion carries a denial 4-2. Thank you. All right. Then, let's then motion on to non-action item, and that is the Goodyear Plan Amendment 08700000. And Ms. Flecklander, you are now on board. And there'll be no commission action on the items that are the next items. We'll have the public hearing in October at Desert High School. Estrella. Foothills High School. Ms. Flecklander.
Thank you, Commissioner DeBroker, members of the commission. On the projector,
I'm
you
going to
see...
open the hearing on this. Thank you.
Sorry. As you see on the projector, the existing as well as the proposed land uses for the Goodyear 142 major general plan amendment. As you can see, even though these vary a little in size, they are the same parcel. You can see that the site is located south of MC 85 and west of the Saraville Avenue extension. The general plan that was officially adopted November 4th, 2003, currently designates the property as low-density residential, which is equal to 2 to 4 density units per acre. In 2005, a preliminary planned area development was approved for this site, which was originally part of 298 acres called Riverside Park, which encompassed this area. It was located on either side of Saraville Avenue extension, included the Goodyear 142 site, and followed the general plan designations with light industrial and low-density residential. The Goodyear 142 general plan amendment, as you can see here, proposes to modify the existing land uses stated in the general plan as 25 acres of medium-high density residential, which would equal 10 to 20 density units per acre, and 117 acres of, of light industrial. This proposed change would reduce the midpoint number of projected dwelling units in the area from 426 to 375, which is a decrease of 51 units. It would also reduce the projected population of midpoint from 1,142 to 1,005, a decrease of 137. The existing surrounding land uses, let's see if I zoom in a little. The existing surrounding land uses and zoning designations include, to the north is Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park. It is zoned general industrial. To the south is vacant land. Its general plan land use designation is low, medium density residential, 4 to 6 density units per acre. To the east is light industrial, which is also vacant land, and then to the west is vacant land as well, which is low, medium density residential, which is 4 to 6 density units per acre. Potential issues that staff saw with the proposed Goodyear 142 general plan amendment include the location of the SR 801. It poses a major constraint on the site, as I can show you here. Here's MC 85, and then this is the proposed ADOT alignment of the SR 801. This alignment is consistent throughout all of ADOT's plans for this area. Also, staff sees a potential issue with buffering of the light industrial land uses to adjacent property designated as low, medium density residential to the west and south of this property. Also, the ability of the city to support additional multifamily housing could be a potential issue, as well as the medium high density residential proposed within Goodyear 142 is within the Phoenix Goodyear Airport 1 mile graduated density zone. Again, no recommendation on this request, a recommendation will be provided at the October 15th meeting, and no commission action is required at this time. The staff is available to answer any questions. And additionally, Matthew Kleisico from RBF Consulting is here to answer any questions on behalf of the applicant.
Are there questions of staff? Okay, hearing none. Applicant wish to make a comment at this time? None. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. May I suggest that commission members keep a copy of the plan for the October 15th meeting? All right, thank you. Okay, the next, well, I guess I better close the public hearing and begin the next public hearing, North City Commerce Park Major General Plan Amendment. And Mr. Tabasola, I'll open the public hearing.
Thank you, Chairman DeBroker, members of the commission. As always, I'll begin by orienting you with this site. It's about 254 acres. And what you're looking at here is here's the Camelback Road and Citrus Road, and it's located just about at the southeast corner of that intersection. It's about 254 acres. This property, as some of you might recall, this came before you a number of years ago as a preliminary PAD, then of course the final PAD, and I believe a preliminary plat followed that for a residential development known as Talaverde Estates. It was a development proposed by Beezer Homes. That property has now reverted back to the Abel family, and it doesn't look like Talaverde Estates will be moving forward, at least not at this time. So again, the request before you is a general plan amendment for basically from one land use to another. That being, and I'm referring to figure 4. I know some of you are flipping through, I'm sorry I didn't clarify that, but this is figure 4. And what you're seeing here is a side-by-side illustration of the proposed and existing land uses, and this is superimposed onto the general plan. I'll further discuss the hatch marks that you see here to the east. Those are referring to the Luke land use compatibility area, which limits land uses to commercial and industrial, basically no residential. This roughly follows the 60 day-night noise level for Luke Air Force Base, this eastern and southern boundary. To the south, about 40 acres, a property that was originally also zoned or owned by the Abel family. That came before you almost exactly a year ago as a rezoning proposal for Abel Ranch Mercado. That was rezoned from rural residential, I believe, to a C. I beg your pardon. Zoning. It was an AG. It was rezoned to a C2 or general commercial use. And to the east, there's the Via West Business or Commerce Park, as well as a 10303. And those are located roughly, as I'm pointing here. Directly to the west is the Sadea, a master plan community, which they have, Meritage Homes has suspended construction for. And to the north is all county, within the county's jurisdiction, currently vacant, and I believe Russell Ranch is roughly located a little bit beyond this map towards the northwest. So it is a seemingly a straightforward general plan amendment request from a rural residential designation, which is 0 to 2 dwelling units to the acre, to a light industrial designation. In the staff report, you'll notice towards the end there, staff has listed a number of issues that might be worthy of consideration, although we're not making a recommendation tonight. A few issues that have come up. One of them particularly regarding this 13-acre out piece, or exception, if you would say, from this general plan amendment request. This is, again, about 13 acres. That property is also zoned for agriculture, AG. And on the general plan, it also has maintained a rural residential designation. At the citizen review meeting a couple weeks ago, the owners of that parcel did attend that meeting, and they have expressed some concerns, and I believe they're here. They're here tonight, and they'll further elaborate on those concerns. But they do have some serious concerns about this being converted from a residential designation to a light industrial. Their concern is that it wouldn't support a neighborhood commercial type of land use, which is what they had in mind. Some of the other issues that I've listed, which really will be addressed a little bit more in depth at the entitlement stage once we get to that point. But some of the things that we'll be talking about is how this area will be supplied with water. There's currently a site plan in that's for a water campus just beyond the 65 DNL line here to the east. That is currently under review. There are still a number of issues being discussed. So nothing has been, I should say, as far as the cost recovery and who will be tapping into this water campus, that hasn't exactly been determined just quite yet. Some of the other issues include perhaps increased truck traffic along Citrus Road, and I believe I listed one other one, and I'm sorry, I apologize, can't quite remember, but those are some of the issues that are worthy of consideration, but we will not be making a recommendation based on those pointers that I've made. So with that, I will conclude my comments and open it up to any questions. The applicant is here as well. So.
Okay. Are there questions of staff regarding this item? Okay, thank you, Mr. Tapasola. And the applicant, would you please come forward and identify you by name and address, please?
Hello, Ed Reichenberg, 3090 North Litchfield Road, Goodyear, Arizona, 85395. Farhad gave a good presentation. It says basically what we think should be appropriate for this property. Beazer tried to propose a very nice thing. It didn't work. A lot of things aren't working nowadays. Residential is going to be a long time off in the future. We currently have a very interested buyer that is currently we have a LOI in our office for light industrial. It's someone known to the area, and we just want to keep it kind of at that. They look at that as being a distribution warehouse site. The prevailing use in this section is light industrial. There are commercial sites. And we feel that you're going to have a lot of employees wanting a lot of daytime services, if not things going on their way home. And that would support some of the area commercial that will be proposed in the near future. That's basically what I wanted to say at that point. Okay. Thanks. If there's any questions, I'd like to answer.
Questions of the applicant? Thank you very much. Now, I understand that there... Oh, go ahead.
And this, I'm sorry, this maybe is a question for staff. You know, you mentioned that 13-acre parcel in the northwest corner. Is that zone the same as the commercial property in the southwest corner?
Chairman DeBroker, Commissioner Williams, the answer to your question is no. This 41-acre, is this the one you're referring to?
Yes.
I'm sorry, yeah, this is currently zoned general commercial. This does not have zoning yet for commercial. It is currently zoned agriculture.
Oh.
Or a large lot residential. And the general plan also designates it as rural residential.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I understand there are other persons that are interested in this general plan amendment. Sir, would you like to come forward and state your name and address?
Can we both come up?
Sure, sure.
My name is Ernie Reynolds. I reside at 21655 North 53rd Drive. My phone number as well?
No,
Okay.
no, not necessarily.
Born and raised here in the Valley. So I'm a West Side boy, so I kind of grew up in the west side of Phoenix and lived in Buckeye, Arizona when I was small. So I've seen the growth over the years.
Okay.
I remember seeing a population sign when I was just a kid. It said Phoenix, 178,000. That was the population when I was like 5 years old when I drove in there. I just had to say that. Anyways, currently, when Gary and I both purchased the property, we left it the way that it was zoned because we had a tenant that, not a tenant, but a leaseor that planted flowers, and he's still leasing it from us as well as from the Able people. So we wanted to leave the zoning alone for tax reasons. But we were going to zone it commercial in the near future. It's, when the real estate market comes back up, and it will come back up. I've gone through many cycles over the last 30 years, and this is definitely a cycle, but we'll get past it. We are concerned about it being zoned differently than what it currently was. It was kind of sold to us as that we had all this residential property that was going to be sprouting around us, and it will in the future. As far as having potential leasers or buyers for this property, there's plenty of property in the area that these people could be buying, including the area of land just right on the other side of us. That's owned by the Able people as well, and that's all vacant. Why do they have to have that zoned also? They could sell that land. And there's other developments around the whole area further east that Suncor has that's currently zoned light industrial. So I just think it's just too much light industrial. Light industrial does have a lot of traffic noise at night. And with a bunch of residential people in the area, that's a little bit harder. And for us to get this land and actually put stores and stuff in it, that's Gary's and I ultimate dream is to build out this property, and we just feel it's much more better for the area if it remains zoned as it is, rather than change it to light industrial. So that's just my stand. So, Gary?
My name is Gary Corr. I currently live in Scottsdale. I purchased a home actually last weekend off of Dysart. So I will be moving in the area soon. And what I envisioned of this area was more of residential use. That's why we've purchased it, and that's why we've kept it we've owned it for the better part of 5 years now. And to put industrial right in the middle of where the residential area is supposed to be. You have Mitchell Ranches is right around the corner, a stone's throw, which I looked at purchasing a home there. And having Citrus being inundated by trucks, I can't see how that could benefit this community, to be honest with you. There's plenty of industrial up and down to New 303, and plenty of industrial area. Is me sitting here listening to people proposing variances have spoke about light industrial. Right now, everybody wants light industrial because maybe that's what they can sell. But I think it's being short-sighted in the future of this community, trying to make a quick buck right now, and not holding on and looking at a zoning that makes sense to this community. I mean, I can sell the land and move on with my life, but this was something that we envisioned as being an upscale community, and that's why I'm moving to this area. And to just throw in some light industrial because it makes sense right now for a quick dollar. To me, it doesn't make sense for the town to approve this. I mean, it's outside the Luke Air Force request of residential. It's outside the area, so it's not encroaching on Luke. And to the west, there's going to be, what I can see, is going to be inundated by industrial. So I think from Citrus going toward Alvarado, I thought this was going to be all residential, upscale area. And to change that vision now, because maybe the economy is down, doesn't make sense to me. Not for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions by commissioners at this point? Then, okay, thank you. We're not taking, is there anyone else who would wish to? Mr. Bowe? Yes, there is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I'm here representing Liberty, and Liberty, if I may take this off. The property that is subject to this general plan amendment application is colored yellow on this map. Liberty owns this bluish, purplish property that's located immediately east of the yellow. Liberty is a developer who has purchased this property for purposes of light industrial development, and as you may recall from a couple of years ago, Liberty's property is zoned I-1 with a PAD overlay, and this pink property to the north is zoned C2 with a PAD overlay. These two properties were zoned together at the same time. At that time, they were both owned by BioWest. Liberty's purchased the property to the south. I want to emphasize that I am not here to speak in opposition to this general plan amendment. We're trying to be good neighbors to the property to the west and a variety of other neighbors, and work with staff on a variety of issues which Harvey or others could go into with respect to infrastructure and other kinds of things that Liberty with staff has been working on in this entire square mile. But from discussions with Harvey and with Ed, we thought it would be appropriate to give your commission a heads up in that if this does become light industrial, we may be back on behalf of Liberty to address some stipulations that were put in place on Liberty's property along what would be our west or the east property line of Talaberty. And I know that detailed discussions of that would come in the future, but it would be a scenario where, as you may recall, a couple of years ago when we were in zoning those properties to this kind of a zoning map, again with this pink being I-1 with PAD overlay and the red being C2 with the PAD overlay, and the property to the west, which is shown yellow, being zoned and I believe preliminarily platted, if I remember correctly, for large lot residential. Staff and the commission and council were understandably anxious to put on us a number of restrictions and requirements and stipulations that would deal with how we would provide setbacks, landscape buffers, 8-foot walls, certain things concerning bay doors, certain things concerning building sizes and proximity to this west property line would require use permits, so on and so forth. Whether all that tasted particularly good at the time or not is probably not the point of the discussion tonight, but those restrictions and requirements were put in place. And if this were to develop with residential, then those stipulations and requirements unquestionably would be honored and enforced through the staff's site plan review processes. The heads up that Harvey and I talked about is if this property, which is shown as yellow, is approved for light industrial uses, I suspect that we'll be back to say, let's revisit some of those stipulations and requirements along our west property line, because now instead of interfacing with residential, we're light industrial, it would be interfacing with other light industrial, and I think some of those residential compatibility requirements could properly be revisited, and I would hope would go away or be modified as appropriate. I say that in the context of, again, we're not here to speak in opposition to the general plan amendment, but we're here as a heads up, so if we're back in 3 months or 6 months or whatever, you're not wondering, well, where were you guys in September when we discussed this the first time? If you have questions, I'll try to answer them. Otherwise, I hope the heads up is useful to the commission if we're back here in the future.
Questions? All right, thank you. There are none others that are going to speak in this behalf, is that correct? All right, then I'll close this public hearing, and there'll be no action taken tonight on this item. October 15 is the next meeting at Estrella Foothills High School. Next item is general plan amendment for El Rio Crossing. Is that correct? Ms. Wilkins, you're on deck, huh?
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner, members of the Commission. Staff has received a request for a major general plan amendment for 246 acres from Withy Morris on behalf of DRM Farms and Southern Avenue Farms. The property is located southeast of Southern Avenue and Perryville Road and northwest of MC 85, which you can see here bounded by the purple dashed line. North of the site is land designated as rural residential by the City of Goodyear General Plan. To the west is area that's in the Buckeye General Planning area and is designated as Business Park. And to the south of the property is the Gila River. DRM Farms and Southern Avenue Farms own about 225 acres of the 246 acres. There are 4 other private property owners who have all agreed to the general plan amendment, and the state of Arizona owns a 14-acre parcel within the site. The general plan amendment, or the current City of Goodyear general plan designates this area as 226 acres of rural residential and 20 acres of community commercial. The general plan amendment proposes 114 acres of regional commercial land use in the southern portion of the site, 44 acres of light industrial along MC 85, 45 acres of high-density residential, and 19 acres of community commercial. The general plan land use plan also designates the proposed State Route 303 and proposed State Route 801. The alignments shown on the general plan map are not any type of final alignments. Alignments for these roadways haven't been chosen. This has just been depicted on the land use map to show that these could be in this area. These alignments also do not designate a preferred alignment by the city or the applicant. Approval of the general plan amendment could generate a possible additional 800 dwelling units from what the general plan currently depicts. A citizen review meeting was held on the project on August 6th. Several property owners within the site and surrounding property owners came to the meeting to ask questions, but no concerns or objections were raised at the meeting. There are two potential issues that staff has found through review of the project. The first is that, as I said, the State Route 801 and State Route 303 have not had specific alignments chosen, so that's a bit of an unknown in the area. Staff did not receive any objection from ADOT on the proposed general plan amendment, but they did reiterate to staff that those alignments have not been chosen yet, so that's an unknown. Another possible issue could be that the city's ability to support additional regional commercial. This issue was brought up by Newland Communities to the city of Goodyear. I do want to note that the general plan states that regional commercial should be located 5 to 10 miles from other areas designated as regional commercial, and this property is at least 5 miles from another property that's designated as regional commercial. And the general plan does not give any guidance as to what the size of regional commercial areas should be. As was said, staff is not giving any recommendation on this proposal at this time, so the applicant and staff are available for any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions? Does the applicant wish to make a comment at this time?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. Vanessa Hickman with Withey Morris, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle. I did have a full presentation this evening, but I don't know that it's necessary for me to go through it unless you would like me to. I know it's already been a long evening. I would like to point out a few things in response to some comments from staff. We have worked in conjunction with staff as well as the surrounding property owners to try and craft land use for this area that we believe is going to be supported by future transportation networks. When we first came in with our proposal, it was just for the 224 acres that comprises DRM farms, but we did include an approximate 20 acres, which effectively gives us this triangle area that's bordered by MC 85 to the east and south, and then Perryville Road to the west. Although the transportation corridors for the 801 and the 303 have not been definitively set, they're definitely going to locate in this area and probably quite likely where they are shown on our proposed general plan land use map. Regardless of the final designations of the 801 and the 303, this property is ideally located adjacent to Perryville Road, which, according to the Hasayampa study, is going to be a regional parkway with 200 feet of right-of-way, providing significant regional connectivity, as well as MC85, which is a road of regional significance. The reference that was made to the letter from Newland Communities, I did have the opportunity to speak with David Prescott from Newland Communities, and their concern was that we were looking to locate a regional mall on our property, which they feared might compete with their regional mall site, which is located about 8 to 9 miles away. We are looking at some regional commercial, but it's not to locate a regional mall. We're looking at some, big box users, some retail, and that type of thing, but it's not for a future Westcore site or anything of that nature. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this amendment? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask that you keep your booklet for October 15. Thank you. Next item is the Southwest Goodyear Major General Plan Amendment. Mr. Tavasoli, I will open the public hearing and fire away.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. What I'm showing you here on Elmo is Exhibit A, which is the vicinity map of a 3,580-acre area that is currently outside the city's corporate limits and also outside the city's municipal planning area. Okay, it wasn't included in the 2003 general plan. And it's located, again, about 3,580 acres, and it's located about 8 miles south of the Gila River. And it is adjacent to a portion of Estrella Region 3, which at this point is I might know we're reviewing the preliminary PAD, and it should be coming before you within the next few months. Now, I could just zoom in by showing you another exhibit here. This is actually Exhibit G. I believe it's the last exhibit, but I think it's also a good ownership map as well, aside from it being intended for a proposed circulation map. But you can see the 3,580 acre area outlined here in red. Again, this is within Maricopa County's jurisdiction, although Maricopa County does not have a plan for this particular area. Neither does the town of Buckeye. And our intent is to, here before you, is to include it within our municipal planning area at this point, not to annex it, because that involves a whole separate process. But this, if nothing else, this is only a vision of how we would like to see this property planned for. And I'll go ahead and give you some numbers here in terms to reflect the ownership of this area. BLM owns the vast majority of this area, the subject area. It's about 2,315 acres, and the vast majority of that is east of the Jackrabbit Road, I beg your pardon, west of the Jackrabbit Road alignment. There's a 320-acre area here within the state's jurisdiction, the Arizona State Land Department, and there's also a rather large area here, I believe 3/4 of a square mile, that is also owned by the state. And the remainder, you can see, is just an agglomeration of, actually I should be pointing down south here, some privately owned parcels as well. Now, there is a 160-acre parcel within the Sonoran Desert National Monument, which is south of this, what is known as Komatki Road. It doesn't appear to be a public road, but it's an unpaved road as it appears on the aerials. It's 160 acre within the Sonoran Desert National Monument, but it has been contemplated for open space on the general plan. If you look at the current general plan, although it's not in the planning area, the city has contemplated it as open space. However, as a general plan policy, the city, as a general practice, does not desire to designate open space for privately owned areas if the city doesn't have the means or isn't ready to buy it at this point. And the fact of the matter is, we don't have the means, we're not ready to buy it, so we would like to see that as a rural residential designation on the general plan. And as I pointed out, the vast majority of this area here is owned by the Bureau of Land Management. They are currently working on a resource conservation study. They are just about ready to cede that land, but staff is expecting that the recommendation that they will make is that that land remain as open space. And the city is in general agreement with that, and thus we're coming before you with this general plan amendment. And at this point, and perhaps I should have done this earlier, but if you look at the existing general plan map, you can see that the vast majority, and this is Exhibit B, the majority of it is currently designated for rural residential. Again, not within the planning area, but contemplated for rural residential. And this is how we see, this is how we envision it if it were to be included within our municipal planning area. So basically, just to give you some numbers here, the existing general plan shows about 3,130 acres designated as rural residential, and with this amendment, we're looking at a reduction to 1,250 acres of rural residential. Currently, there's no low-density residential within this area, contemplated for this area, but the State Land Department has expressed a desire to designate their 320 acres here up north to a low-density residential, which is a bit consistent with the McRae property, the general plan designation for the McRae property up north, this L-shaped area up here. That came before you a couple of years ago as a general plan amendment request as well. And As for the vast majority, we are recommending that currently it's contemplated for 450 acres of open space, and that is namely south of Komatke Road. With this general plan amendment, we're proposing a 2,010 acre designation for open space residential, and thus that will reduce the density for that area and maintain what is now the BLM land as open space. And with that, I'll conclude my, I beg your pardon, I should note one other thing. You might notice that I handed out kind of a supplement to the attachments. The owner of these three parcels here, all one owner, has expressed an interest in working with the city to redesignate that as you can see here, a low-density residential designation. It's a 160-acre property under his ownership, and as you can see, the vast majority he is envisioning as a low-density residential designation with a 20-acre area for community commercial. I can have a representative here acting on the owner's behalf to explain the reasoning behind that, but basically, in a nutshell, there's not a whole lot of private parcels, small private parcels here, the owners of which are not interested at this point, seemingly, to propose a master plan community at this point. So this owner has taken this opportunity to work with the city and perhaps move forward with a low-density residential designation here. And the city is certainly willing to work with the owner. And with that, I'll conclude my comments.
All right. Any questions of staff at this point? Thank you. Yes, Mr. Locke.
Farhad, so in regards to that parcel, since so that would be a future change, or is this what we're talking about now?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lux, at this point we are proposing the general plan amendment as it's been presented before you before having received this supplemental handout here. Between now and the next commission meeting next month, the city will continue working with the representative for the owner, and we may, based on the outcome of our discussion, come before you with a different plan for that 160-acre area. Right now, we have nothing to really substantiate that proposal. But
so my question, I mean, if in fact we do not include this, and I'm not saying today, but even in the future, would this require a major or minor amendment? In the future.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it will.
Okay. Do you wish to have someone else speak in this behalf?
Well, as I said, a representative acting on behalf of that landowner is here to share a few comments as well.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Mr. Tavasoli.
My name is Ryan Miller with DEI Professional Services, here on behalf of the owner. 6225 North 24th Street, Suite 200, Phoenix. Recently, the landowner came to us requesting that we explore whether or not there are any opportunities to provide any additional changes to the proposed plan by the city. And after reviewing the current plan and existing zoning in the area, we came up with a plan that we thought would introduce land uses that would be a little more favorable to a residential subdivision, and also provide a little more variety in housing options to future residents, as well as a commercial corner that would provide services that would probably be needed within the area. at the same time, with the low-density residential still being sensitive to the rural residential properties surrounding it. We understand at this time that the infrastructure needed for this type of development is still a little ways away, and due to that and the current market, development in this area probably is still a ways off. But we wanted to use this opportunity to hopefully bring the site into the next stage of the development process, and hopefully in future develop the site as a subdivision. So with that, any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this subject? Being none, I'll close the public hearing and also keep this item for October 15th. Mr. Schmidt, I'll open the public hearing on the next item, a general plan text amendment. And Mr. Schmidt, open the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Eddie, if I could have that 40-minute PowerPoint presentation put up there.
Oh, okay.
I don't have one of those. I'll spare you.
Harvey, are you going to spring for Red Bull or what?
Well, I hope you preserved your sanity up to this point, because I guarantee you by the time we're done talking about this, you'll probably lose it. It's we are trying to address some confusion and provide some clarification to the general plan text as it pertains to what constitutes a minor amendment, what constitutes a major amendment. And the staff report itself wasn't very detailed, but the attachment to it was fairly detailed in trying to explain what the problems are. There's essentially three revisions that we're proposing to make. The first involves some text that was evidently placed in the wrong place in the document through revisions toward the very end. The footnotes to the tables didn't appear to be in exactly the right place, but with a little bit of sleuthing, you could figure out that it actually belonged with a different table. So what we're going to do is swap them out and put them where they belong. So that's really more of just of a housekeeping type of an item that we're going to take care of with this request. The second thing is dealing with how tables 2.4 and 2.5 are used. You have copies of those in your agenda material. 2.4 basically is the table that talks about the size of the change, the percentage of change, and I know I've got it right here someplace. Throw it up here. Oops. Thank you. So 2.4 talks about the size, 0 to 20, 20 to 160, 160 plus, and then the percentage of change that's represented, whether it's 0 to 10, 10 to 20, or 20, or over 20%, and then that is supposed to be used to categorize whether it's a minor or a major amendment. And then we have Table 2.5, which is a matrix which is supposed to provide guidance as to if this is the existing land use and it goes to this land use, you line them up, and then it tells you if it's a minor, if it's in the white boxes, and if it's in the shaded boxes, it's a major. The problem that we encountered is that basically everything on 2.5 is either a minor or a major. There's a few places where no change is represented by the X, but that's basically where it doesn't change. This line is no change, so obviously there's no amendment. But and so if you follow a procedure where you use both tables and say if it says one thing on one table and one thing on another table, and you go with the higher of the two, then Table 2.4 is almost rendered useless. So and it was apparent to us that the intent of Table 2.4, or at least we believe it was the intent of Table 2.4, that if you had a change that was less than 20 acres, then no amendment should be required. It was a small enough change, the impact is minimal, should not require a change at all. So that was what led us to kind of reconsider things. But also, it led us also to revision number 3, which is whether you use the amount of acreage as the size of the PAD or the existing zoning, or you use amount of acreage as the amount of acreage that's proposed for change. So 2 different things. One is the area to be changed, and the other one is the whole. Well, we ran into a similar kind of situation with that if you use it as representing the area as a whole, you have a 50-acre PAD, and you change 10 acres of that PAD, or say 11 acres, that's more than 20%. That's a major amendment. Well, I don't think it was the intent to make a 10-acre, 11-acre change of a 50-acre PAD a major amendment to the general plan. So that caused us to look at it from the standpoint of saying, well, then the amount of acreage really should be related to the amount of change, so that it'd be very simple that you just look at this table. Then it says if it's 0 to 20, it's no change. If it's 20 to 160, it'll fall in the minor category, and then if it's over 160 proposed for change, it's a major, unless, as the footnote, one of the footnotes denotes, that the City of Goodyear favors large-scale master planning in PADs. And that's when the percentage of change should come into place, that if you have a large PAD, then the percentage would actually be calculated as the amount of change in relation to the larger PAD. It doesn't really work for existing zoning because it wasn't easy to determine what area you would calculate the amount of change on when it talked about just the existing zoning. At one point, the draft language said existing zoning under one ownership, which then would have helped define an area, but then that language was taken out, and at this stage, we have elected not to try to put it back in. So the proposed change would restructure Table 2.4 so that, oops, put the other way. He's sensitive. Stop. Okay. So for non-PADs, we would just use basically the 0 to 20, 20 to 160, and then over 160 for no amendment, minor or major. But then we would use the amount of change calculated against the percentage of the PAD, because when you have a PAD, you know what the PAD is. It's well defined, and you can calculate then percentage against that. And then that would determine if it's less than 10%, it's no amendment. If it's over 20%, that's a major amendment. 10 to 20 would be minor in between. So I know it is potentially confusing. Both Bob and I worked on this, trying to come up with something that we felt improved the situation, but at the same time was trying to keep with the intent of the general plan as it was originally adopted. In closing, what we're proposing then, we would use Table 2.4 in the manner I just described. We'd use Table 2.5 as another check against the plan, but it would for an amendment to be a major amendment, it would have to be major in both tables. And then if it's a minor in either table, then we would use it to be a minor. So that's the principle of the text amendment, and at this point, I would stand for any questions that you might have, and as noted by the others, we're not asking for a recommendation tonight or any action.
Okay. Questions of staff?
Thank you. You made it very clear.
You're very kind. I know that's not true. Thank you anyway.
All right. Are there any other comments that wish to be made by the public regarding this? I guess you did explain it then well, Joe. Thank you. I'll close the public hearing and ask that we bring the material to the October 15 meeting. And the next item of business is staff communications.
Can I speak loud enough? Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, It appears we're going to have a special, or we need to have a special P&Z meeting on October 29th. That's the last Wednesday in the month. There's a presentation by the Public Works on a master parks plan, or parks master plan, whichever, that they've been working on, so that'll devote that. The primary thing for that meeting will be the parks. Is there some other items? There are other items. I guess there's some other items too. And then the following meeting, then we'll have our normal November meeting. And reminder that the October 15th meeting is at Estrella Foothills High School. So we'll be a notice going out on that one. Anything else?
No, just that the October 15th, besides the general plan amendments, we have a couple of other regular items, and we're scheduling other items in November, so there's pretty extensive agendas for those two meetings. That's why the special meeting. Or maybe it's because we're trying to get all these meetings before Chairman Gelser comes back.
You never know. He may be listening.
He's watching on the boat right now. He's
been on the phone all this time. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other staff communications?
Move we adjourn.
All right, motion to adjourn by, we are adjourned then.